Okay, good evening, all my friends. Thanks for your participation. Let us try to catch up the time, the loss. Okay, I thought some years ago, I actually have given a talk on the wearables devices and so on. At that time, my personal view was it was still not mature enough, the technology. So although there was a lot of people that actually commenting on the website that saying that the wearables devices, the business is going to boom like mad. But actually, I only noticed that since the 5G is actually established, and while they are actually pushing out the 5G network, there are more and more wearables devices are actually also coming in stream, especially the goggles. They actually we use it for the AR and the VR application. So you can actually see that indeed earlier on without the 5G actually it is not much useful at all. Okay, with that, let us recapture again to look into what is the definitions of wearables technology. So this is a slide I want to show with you. Okay, is everybody can see on the screen now? Anybody can confirm?
Can you just proceed?
Okay, so this what is wearables technology? Actually, from the words itself, anything you can actually wear on your body. So well in this aspect is actually you can hang on to your body. You can wear it as a earring or as a ring on your fingers, or even you can actually cut the so-called attachable kind of patch with microchips are embedded on it and then stick on your screen. That is also considered as wearable. And you can actually also go through it by putting your device onto your pocket or stitch it on your shirt and then you wear the shirt. So there are many ways of actually defining. So anything so long that even you are holding it, you are hanging on it and so on with a string and so on, like a bag, that is also called wearable. Now in Chinese language, I think wearable is actually have more different words to describe. For example, when we say we wear the spectacle, in Chinese we call 我戴眼镜. But when I actually wearing a hat, 我戴帽子. Yeah. So when I actually put on my shirt, 我穿上衣服. So there are different way of describing it, but on more actually everything is wear. So you wear your rings. So there is actually quite different things. When you use the Chinese language, it is easier to actually see that what exactly you are doing with the device. Okay, so there is actually, so this is the first point that we actually have to sort of make it clear so that then it is easier for us to understand. So now at this moment, as I as beginning with, I talk about AI, the AR and the VR. So if there is any problem of actually understanding the AR and VR, I think maybe later on then we come back and talk about it, because now I think it is only a sub branch of the wearable thing. Yeah, not everything actually involve AR or VR. Yeah. Okay. Then now after we knowing what is actually wearable technology, in fact, anything that you put on your body, attached to your body, and so on and so forth, we define it as a, and when you talk about the technology, we actually don't start with the digital technology yet. But in tonight's our talk, we are going to actually more define that we are talking about digital technology, wearable digital devices. Yeah. The reason is, many years ago, I think more than 1,000 years ago in China, people are wearing earrings, and then the Africans are wearing earrings, and then we are wearing jewelry on our body and so on. So these are all wearable technology. So the first spectacle is actually just a piece of lens. If you remember, if you actually watch some old movie, you can see that the spectacle is only one lens, and then it's a round lens that you must have a big eyes that use your eyelids to actually hold on to the lens. If not, then you have to hold with your hand. So for nowadays, our spectacle, both hands we have lenses, and then there is actually a so-called wire or a hook or a spectacle frame that actually secure it over your 2 ears. Yeah. So this is actually the thing. So in other words, if you actually extend the definitions of wearable, it is actually as far back as a few hundred years ago, even 1,000 years ago, when people start using the lenses to read and so on. And then certainly a lot of jewelry, a lot of cosmetics, the so-called accessory and so on, we all actually hang it somewhere. And the very typical one is actually when we get married or get engaged, we have the rings on our fingers and so on. Yeah. And some Indians actually they pierce their nose, and then they put a rings on their nostrils, something like that. Yeah. So these are all wearables technology. Okay. Nowadays the wearables technology also influenced by the Internet of Things also. In other words, today's we are talking about wearables technology. Most likely that it is actually have a communications capability. Whether you are using Wi-Fi, you are using Bluetooth, or you are using any kind of means to actually communicate with another party's devices. And then with that, it is actually extending the scope of the device itself. Yeah. So when you actually have a device, a handphone that you are holding and you are actually taking picture, you immediately the picture you can actually communicate with somebody else, and then make it very useful in that sense. Otherwise, if you take a photo and you cannot actually communicate with people, then that picture is still with your own, and you cannot actually use it immediately. Okay. So the next thing is actually we are talking about what are the uses in terms of its applications. Yeah, because just now we define what is actually considered as wearable. Now we actually have to go into what are the applications that actually. So today's today's nowadays we can actually see that many of you actually started using the so-called health band and so on to actually monitor how many steps you walk and so on. And maybe also some of them also, some of you actually also wearing it. I think many years ago, I think many of you already are wearing it over the night when you are sleeping. And then it's actually, the device actually monitoring the conditions of your sleeping habits and so on. So things like that, these are all under the health and fitness kind of application. Yeah. So for people who actually have heart disease and so on, there are devices that measuring their heartbeats throughout 24 hours. Yeah. The moment they actually, some actually even, can be actually things like people need a so-called pacemaker to regulate their heartbeat and so on. The device is actually, it's not just wear on it, it's actually through a surgery and then actually uh, put inside your body. I think very near to your heart, I think, that it can actually regulate your heartbeats so that you don't have actually, suddenly that your heartbeats actually stop and then you are in trouble. Yeah. So much actually have there are lots of actually applications already in the health sort of area. Now also in the health and this fitness area, we are not just talking about you monitor the how the device actually monitor the condition and so on. We also use it to actually doing some kind of regulating your organ, like the pacemaker, and they are now using certain devices to actually to administer drugs into your body also. So there are many ways of actually making use of the device already, the so-called digital devices. Yeah. Then the other one is actually in the point of view of telemedication, yeah, or medicine, so that you can actually do remote control kind of situations when you conduct medical check. For example, during the COVID time, we are now still under the COVID situations, and lots of actually a lot of people actually don't visit the hospital or the clinic, but they just hook up and then they can talk to the doctor, and the doctor will say, okay, open your mouth, I want to check your tongue and so on, your throat and so on, whether it's any infected and so on, or you have a wound on your body and so on. You just bring your handphone so that you can communicate with the doctors, and then the doctor can actually try to diagnose it and so on. Now, just 2 or 3 days ago, there was actually a news flash on, I can't remember exactly. I think most likely it's actually the National Eye Center. Actually, is in part of the SGH actually. So they are using now a kind of goggles. The goggle is actually like those headset that actually you use it for the AR and the virtual reality, the kind of application. But these goggles actually is enable the surgeon, the eye surgeon, to actually able to look at your your eye condition. Mainly is your retinans and then your crystal and then all the different things that they can actually check through that. Yeah. So in other words, in the past, when the doctor actually have to put some medications in your eyes to actually dilate your pupil, and then they shine a light, and then they can actually have to go through the so-called magnifying device. I would say it's a microscope. It's just a magnifying device that they actually can see your eyes condition, and then they have to go through that by that. But nowadays, when you wear it, the because the goggles is actually wear properly, and it doesn't move. And in other words, you can actually achieve a clearer visions. And the beauty is, whatever is captured by the camera on the the goggles, it will be actually connected by 5G and then through the internet, and then the doctor can actually see it. And they can, from there, of course, they can on their computer and so forth for future review and so on, you see. So that is actually, is actually coming to another way of actually to save a lot of sort of manpower, and then also the time of traveling and so on. Yeah. And in fact, I think many years ago, actually, I also um, joining the scheme that actually periodically once a year when I go for my health checkup at the polyclinic, they are actually to also check on my retinals the health, the condition. And in this particular case, initially the image was actually sent to the doctor, so that the doctors can review it after I have actually have the image taken, and then they will actually review it, and no need to actually looking at it immediately when it's physically they are doing the examination on me. So these are the thing. Then subsequently, because they have sufficient sort of statistics on uh, the so-called normal and not so normal kind of not so healthy kind of retinans and so on. So they actually have that. So nowadays they are actually using the AI, artificial intelligence, to actually do the screening. So the image nowadays is not reviewed by a specialist or eye doctors and so on to actually see. They just use the AI to actually tell whether the person's retinance is still good enough, and need any further follow up or not, and so on. So you can actually see that uh, there is a there is a lot of cost saving in the sense. Yeah. And it's also quicker. And then if you actually uh of course, if the doctor actually or the medical system itself is continuous actually monitoring the patient's the condition and so on, and then make sure that they actually can actually, when you check on the condition, it is up to the doctor to actually interpret your condition. Yeah. But when you actually use a computer, use a AI's kind of situation, they are actually taking your image, and then they go and compare to the so-called accepted level of the image, and then how well it is and so on. Then the accuracy or the human error is not there anymore. Yeah. But I would also have to remind also the so-called specification, what is the accepted limits and so on, also actually have to be continuous based on the statistics. Whether there is actually relaxations or a tightening of the so-called spec limit and so on. you know. So once you actually establish the so-called the upper limit and the acceptable limit and so on, then you can actually rely on the AI. But as time go on, our conditions and there may be some others so deteriorations in your eyes. You know that you have not actually incorporate into the system, so you have to be continuing the so-called the eye specialists and the scientists actually have continued to actually re-establish the thing in the long run. But once that it's actually done, then again they can actually incorporate into the AI as part some of the other criteria to actually consider in your situation. Now, I actually want to actually use this as a case to actually highlight that the how usefulness it is and how whether it is reliable or not. Very much also you need a team of people who are actually monitoring and setting up the so-called uh, limits that is actually to screen out the good one and the bad one and so on. Yeah. And then the machine becomes reliable, and then you don't get the patients mistreated because of the system is not able to actually screen out in the correct way. Yeah, I think the same thing actually it should actually apply to a lot of others so-called using the AI to actually check on your body condition and so on, whether your body is still okay or you need attention and so on. Yeah. Okay, so that is it. So that part of it, I think we covered quite a lot already on this so-called health and fitness and so on. Then the other area of application is, of course, uh, for the sports. Now, this is actually mainly, again, this is actually also very complicated because it is actually monitoring your body's situation, and then also during your body's condition at a certain kind of fluctuations, whether you are doing the warming up process or whether you are actually after one 30 minutes or 20 minutes of uh, active sports and so on, and your body condition change. And then because of body condition change, whether you are overheated, overstressed and so on, then your performance will actually affected. So this is actually another area of actually using it. It's, yeah. So you can actually attach a lot of devices, and then you can actually monitor your body condition, and then at the same time you also have devices to actually monitor your what is your performance. And then with these two sets of, then they can actually come to a certain so-called co-relationship, and then they can actually say, okay, if we want to actually have a sportsman to actually perform better, then what are the improvement that we actually have to sort of enhance the body condition to the optimum stage. Yeah. uh, Over the whole sort of sporting events and so on. Yeah. So, for example, for football games, I think if I remember correctly, it's something like 25 minutes or for one session or something, and then the whole thing actually take about 45 minutes to complete. The that is actually the Yeah, I think those you people that actually watching the football, I think you can actually confirm whether the period that I mentioned is correct or not. But what I'm trying to again is for basketball, for any kind of sport, yeah, badminton, table tennis, and so on, your performance will deteriorate as when you actually are feeling the fatigue, whether you are too overheated or whether you are actually overstressed and so on. And of course, beside that, also mental kind of performance also actually will affect or the mental condition also actually affect your performance also. Yeah. So that is like the application on the sports area. Then I think most of us who are actually healthy, so the health and fitness kind of thing is not so important to them. So they would like to actually enjoy their lives. So it's mainly on entertainments. So whether you're actually listening with the music or you're watching movie or anything, or you are actually studies on the online and so on, or you are under trainings using the goggles, to watch some virtual reality kind of training program and so on. So this is another area of actually of application. Yeah. So and I think a big part of it is actually entertainment, and the other one is actually gaming. Gaming can actually include the people that uh, that actually involves money kind of a gaming. So again, it is a very lucrative sort of business. So you would like to actually more people can start doing the gaming anytime, and as convenient as using your handphone and so on. Yeah. So any moment, 24 hours, you can actually go in and then you can gamble. Yeah. So this is another area. Then, of course, the medical kind of thing, actually, just now I actually have covered in the sense, yeah. The health and fitness is actually monitor when you are not actually fall sick, and when you actually have some so-called um, long-term kinds of illness, yeah, then you will actually need the monitoring. But the healthcare and the medical is actually talking about a one-time kind of operations, or you're talking about some remote kind of medications and so on. Yeah, yeah, and especially when you have chronic diseases, which are actually many people with high blood pressure problem or the kidney problem and the cholesterol problem, diabetes, and all this, So these are actually chronic diseases and so on. So it is something that you cannot ignore it. But on the other hand, it's not immediately that you will be die, you know. But if you don't take care and you don't monitor it, and these are the one that actually is I think many of us, I think probably is actually on medications, to actually lower our cholesterol and so on, and, yeah, and the blood pressure. And then for diabetics patient, I think it's even more troublesome actually. Yeah. And kidneys problem also, that you have to go for dialysis and so on. So these are the things. Yeah. So many of these also, it involves a lot of manpower, and then a lot of equipment, and then medication also, everything. Yeah. So some of them can actually hook up, and then they can do the dialysis without the doctors around. Yeah, with some assistance from the nurses, and then they can actually the machine will actually able to monitor the process, and then they record, and then again they can actually use the AI to actually determine whether your health condition is actually under control and managed. Okay, now is another very interesting area. We're talking about fashion. Okay, fashion. So far, nobody have actually built a camera, something like a earrings for the lady to wear, or something like that. Yeah. So some I also don't see any people actually wearing earrings actually with the LED light blinking. We only see when there's actually a theater performance or something, or even our National Day parade. There was some kind of performance that actually they actually let the participant to wear some clothing that actually uh, with a lot of LEDs light actually is attached to the clothing, so that at night they can actually form all kind of funny lights effects and so on, yeah. So that you can actually consider as on the fashions and the artistic kind of applications. Yeah. So again, it depends on how you look at the thing. Yeah. For example, uh, some of the people, they actually using so-called uh, you can wear it on your waist time, and then to actually do some massage on your tummy and so on. Yeah, to achieve kind of shaping your body, yeah, conditions and so on. So there are some things for that kind of health, uh, so-called your physics kind of improvement and so on. Yeah, beside to enhance your look in that sense. Yeah, I do not know. Maybe one day we can actually uh, sprinkle some kind of LED light on our hair and so on, and then you become a spaceman with the light grooming and then blinking all at night. Okay, so these are the different kind of applications, and I would want to say that uh, whether it can continue expanding in all this area, well, depends on how creative are the people that making use of the technology. Yeah. Okay. Now we can see that there are lots of things for it. A lot of things are actually being sort of under study to use the kind of they call it the biomedical kind of uh, system to, for example, to administer drugs into your body. And so far, there are two areas I think have been widely used. Yeah, I think one way is actually a lot of ladies actually go for this so-called family planning and so on. So they actually taking the so-called the drugs to actually interfere with their body cycle, so that they will not get pregnant. And to rely on orals kind of taking the pills, sometimes they miss. because they are talking about a 28 days cycle and so on. And some are shorter, 26 or 25, and some are actually 32 and so on. And to avoid, they actually forget to take the medicine. So, in fact, for the lady, they get the package of the tablet. There will be actually 30 pills packed into one package. So every day they just take one. And they certain month they have 31 day, they will have a package that actually 31 pills. Yeah. That one to make to and two of them or one of them will be a dummy. And for example, the during the February they have 28. Yeah. So because it is all based on the assumption that you take one every day so that it become a habit, you don't miss anything. Yeah. So for that reason, on February, they will just have 28 pills. Yeah. Because but your body actually doesn't based on your 28 days. They actually based on the natural cycle and so on. So for that reason, that is why they actually have to based on the assumption that if your cycle is actually 28 days, they will put two extra dummy one so that you don't actually forget to actually or get yourself confused with the which day you actually need to take the, the active pill and not the dummy one. Yeah, so that is actually a thing. And why I'm actually talking about this is actually nowadays they are actually able to do an implant, so that this implant is actually sort of embedded on your upper arm, and the medication will actually slowly release it to your body, so you don't actually have to worry about whether you have to take the pills or not. Yeah. So this is actually so so this is the application that I think as far back as 40 or 50 years ago they already have doing this, because I remember that when I was study that time, I think this was actually the situations already. So now up till now, I think uh, not 100% of the women actually do the to take the trouble to actually sort of embed the so-called the device on their arms actually, and then to avoid taking the pill and so on. Anyway, when you are getting older, you also don't have to take the pill anymore. So that is a thing. The other group of patients is actually those with diabetics problem. So the insurance actually the insulin actually was actually administered to some kind of device also, they actually built into your body. But again, that one is not so reliable, and also sometimes actually not very uh, useful. The reason, when to actually the diabetics patient to actually have to take the medication is also depends on whether they are actually taking food or during the lunchtime or meal time and so on, very much on that one. So it is, our eating habits is actually not all the time that as precise as and then the drugs that actually go into your body is got to be very precise also. If you want to take a main meal, you actually half an hour ago you have to take more medicine. But if just have a cup of tea, a piece of cake and so on, then you actually have to uh, inject. Sometimes actually they actually inject with the needle and so on, and then you have to do less, and some even depend on the situation. Yeah. because I learned it from one of my auntie. She has been doing that and so on. So again, uh, to actually rely on the device that actually built into your body, actually, I think is not so useful for the diabetics situation. Yeah, because of the your meal time and so on is not 100% that actually, based on the clock and so on, that 12 o'clock, then you actually can actually have the device to release the drugs and so on. Yeah. Okay, so these are the two things that I can actually think of uh, that actually involves wearable kind of device to actually administer drugs into your body. Yeah, maybe some others people who actually have some other chronic diseases also actually can do something like this. Yeah, I think there actually I mentioned already diabetes and then the heart thing. Yeah, some people actually have to take drugs for their heart condition also. Yeah. Okay, so you can actually see, now we are getting sort of quite understand that there are many area of application and so on, and some of them are really enhance or and also so improve our quality of life when you are sick and so on. Yeah. Okay, these are health monitoring. I think some of them maybe actually I mentioned already. Yeah. So it's actually to monitor on the heart rate, the blood pressure, and some are actually very particular, especially the sportsmen and people who are very worried about the ladies are actually about their calories intake and so on. Yeah, and they can actually use some of the devices to actually uh, constantly monitor on their heat intakes, food intake, and so on. Okay, then this is talking about the pandemic kind of thing using the wearables. Yeah. Okay, so this one I do not know exactly how they actually the wearable technology actually help to actually to prevent the spreading of the infection. Actually, I do not know. Apple, for instance, update the cardiogram apps for new sleeping beats per minute for heart diseases. Oh, okay. So the pandemic actually have created some problem for the heart patient. So, so there is another new application again. Yeah. Okay. So entertainment and gaming, I think we have mentioned already just now. But this is actually getting uh, more and more in the industrial also, beside the entertainment and gaming. Yeah. For example, all I think for a long while, the pilots are trained on simulator and so on. And in the past, they actually have to use uh, the movie for training to take off or to land in different airports all over the different city in the world. Yeah. So for example, they are flying to Tokyo, depend on which airport they are landing. They also actually have a refresh course on the simulator also. Yeah. So nowadays, getting more and more city or even small town have uh, airport. So you can actually see that the requirements for the pilot to actually refresh their knowledge on the different airport is also become more complicated. Yeah. So some of them actually they can based on the goggles and then the using VR or many are actually virtual realities headset to actually as part of the private training of refreshing. Yeah, before they fly off to a airport that actually they don't actually fly to. Okay, then of course the other thing is actually the Meta Quest. I think this one part of the thing. I think the future Facebook, I think everything will be actually in 3 dimension. You are actually in other we are actually getting the virtual reality and so on. Yeah, it's no longer just looking at the reading the text and then looking at the picture, but we are actually get ourselves involved in the surrounding and so on. Yeah, so there's a meta and Sony. These are actually talking about the gaming and so on. Yeah. Now, one of the AR and VRs kind of application is no. I think I don't know whether Chan Hong still playing with the Pokemon's Go. The Pokemon Go is actually involves a lot of uh, augmented reality, the AR. So you can actually wearing it and then you go and search for your Pokemon. Yeah, and then it will actually getting more excited also because the Pokemon actually will be actually appear on your AR screen. But on the other hand, when you wear it and then you're walking in the jungle or down the street and so on, it is something that you know is a really a real experience in that. Yeah, make it very exciting. Yeah. Now I'm not a Pokemon's Go player. I never actually knowing what is it. Okay. Uh, yeah, I think in future we also getting a lot of virtual traveling also. Yeah. So if we before we actually book for holiday, probably we just go through the virtual the VRs of the place that you want to go. Yeah, before you decide whether you should actually physically go there. But unfortunately, if you want to go to a place for the food and so on, then the VR will not help you at all. You still have to physically travel over there. Okay, fashion and smart clothing. Uh, okay, the smart jackets and then the yeah. Uh, okay, so they actually have tracked the composed of electrical fiber and so on. Yeah, that you can wear. And I think one day we can actually wear a shirt that actually with a lot of solar cell stitch on it. It's part of your materials already. So you're walking in the daytime, you can use it to charge your handphone. Yeah. So probably you don't need to actually bring along your power bank anymore. Yeah, then you're talking about you know, it can actually link to your mobile phone and you can actually press a button on your clothing or your jacket and to answer a call or something. Yeah. or even take a photograph. So there are many again. I say the application is all depends on how innovative the people can actually can think of. Yeah. Now we're talking about smartwatches. Actually, in many years, they will already have some touch screen or even with the keyboards, kind of watches that actually can do as a calculator and so on. Yeah. Now I will show you some of the picture later on the olden day. What are the thing like the Sony Walkman, whether it's a cassette player or whether it's a CD player, and subsequently an MP3 player. And nowadays, of course, a handphone to actually playing the music. Yeah. So I will show you some of the pictures subsequently. Okay, so in military, I think including our police men in Singapore, they're actually carrying a lot of these, wearing a lot of these different kind of uh, devices now. One of which is actually most of the events, let's say some of the civil servant, when they actually on the ground and so on, they actually, a lot of them actually carrying camera uh, in front. Mostly is actually near to the chest pocket and so on. Now this is actually to make sure that when they interact with the public and so on, the video will actually camera will actually do some recording and so on. So if anybody actually uh, are not so friendly during their enforcement kind of sessions, and they will be all captured. Especially if you try to beat to gang up and then to actually harm the policemen or the army and so on. Yeah, they will be all captured, and then it become actually some kind of devices that actually they can actually provide evidence for the subsequent prosecution. Yeah, just like those people who are driving car, I think nowadays the car all with the camera and so on, they can actually capture the accidents, how it happened and so on. So easier to actually to settle on the claim. Yeah, especially when there's involves accidents that involves life and so on. Yeah. Okay, so I think militaries personnel also, of course, they have a lot of equipment to carry, and then and also they have a lot of training and so on. So they wear some of the devices mainly to actually sort of monitor, just like the sportsmen, to monitor the body conditions, and then to actually then people can actually, based on the statistic and so on, they can actually see what are the enhancement or condition they can actually improve on the whether the uniform is it too heavy, too not enough ventilations to actually keep the body's temperature cool and so on. So they can actually look into all this area with the wearables devices on their during their training. Okay, same thing also for the sport and fitness. I think we actually see it already. Yeah, we talk about it also, and of course for ball games and so on. Yeah, they can actually sort of mount some devices, embed some of the electronics device, even on a, let's say, a golf ball, which can actually record down the strength of the impact when the player hitting the stick onto the on the golf ball. Yeah, and then they can actually also monitor the how the ball actually during the projectile. That means actually when the player actually hit the ball and then it fly off, and then they can also monitor what is the actually the drag effect and so on. Because when you are actually the ball is actually flying in the air, then they actually have to study the so-called the fluid mechanics of part of it, to is actually the uh, the influence of the air and so on, so that they can actually redesign the surface of the ball and the different kind of material with different kind of frictions, so they can actually the ball will not deviate to the direction that you want to actually have the balls to land it. Yeah. So, and this can only be done if you can have some devices that you can actually embed on the ball, and then you can actually have 5G connections, so that it can actually record down, and then the computer can actually capture all the different kind of data that so that the scientists and the engineer can actually use it to actually improve on the ball. Yeah. So yeah, you can see without the the so-called sensor and the transducer that is actually small enough, light enough to actually you can actually embed it on the golf ball, or even a tennis ball, of that. Yeah. Okay. Then now we are talking about Bluetooth devices. Yes, this is one of the area. When Bluetooth first came out that time, there were no Bluetooth earphone. There were no Bluetooth mouse. So at that time, I remember I was using the palm devices, and the only area they use the Bluetooth was before that it was actually using infrared. So when you actually want to send a file or document, you have to link up with the infrared. So that means you actually have to hold your device and then shining your infrared to another device, and then through that, then there is data transmission using infrared. So if the two guy actually you don't have a steady hands, and sometimes the infrared is not shining properly, then of course the file is actually cannot actually send through, especially bigger file. You have to actually make sure that throughout the 30 second there is a so-called light connections. Yeah. And subsequently, when there was actually a Bluetooth coming, it was a great improvement. So with the Bluetooth, you don't have to actually make sure that the two devices are actually in good alignment, so that the light the infrared can actually shine through. The infrared actually is working on our home remote control, by the way. Yeah. And you can actually imagine if you don't shine the the infrared sensor, then you cannot activate, you cannot change channel on your TV. Yeah, or you can actually change the temperature or the setting on the aircon, for example. And sometimes if you are actually at the angle, you are sitting on the bench, actually you cannot actually uh, establish the direct contact, then the infrared will not actually able to use it. But so far, still nobody actually have the aircon actually with the Bluetooth link up. I think in future they will all link up by the IoT, I think, so that your handphone will actually using the same Wi-Fi network in your house to actually do the linkage. Yeah. Okay, so that is Bluetooth. Uh, so you can actually see that anything that actually you wear, you are talking about, you must actually have a so-called wireless kind of linkage that you can actually transmit the data, or you can actually send through the instruction through the wireless uh, means. Yeah. Just like a electric vehicle and so on, we need 5G to make it safe. You cannot rely on 4G. So certainly you cannot rely on Bluetooth. Okay, so this is actually all part and parcel of all the link up, without the so-called this linkage for the data to actually go through all the wearable will not be able to work actually. Okay, so I think laptop and mobile phone and so on, I think we are all familiar with. I think we need not to spend time on that. Yeah. So Apple Watch, these are actually again these are expansions of the mainly they are I think most of them are actually using the direct Wi-Fi or something to actually link up. I'm because although the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth 5 version 5.2 and so on, actually have multiple channel kind of connection. You can connect to uh, more than one device. Uh, for example, for your Bluetooth earphone that you connect to your mobile phone, it's actually considered two channel already. So in the past, when you actually have Bluetooth 4, you cannot actually connect more than one device. Yeah. Besides the speed also slower, and you cannot actually really play video through Bluetooth. But nowadays, at least you still can actually play video with Bluetooth. Actually, sending picture is definitely no problem with the Bluetooth 5. So you can actually see that same thing also. Uh, uh, Now the other day I was checking on the Bluetooth earphone. I realized that although there are some cheaper one costing about I think below $40. Most of them are still very expensive. You are getting Samsung, or you're getting Apples, or you are getting those JB's, L's kind of Bluetooth earphone. I think they are still quite costly. I think it's ranging from 100 to 300 something. Yeah, very expensive. So, but that again depends on how critical you are when you want to listen to your music and so on. Yeah. So you can actually see that Yeah, some just like speaker, some people pay $2,000-3,000 for a pair of speaker and so on. It's actually for the same reason also, because they have better ears hearing, I think, so that they are able to actually differentiate the music come from different speaker. Okay, so there is actually a lot of application also, and you can actually see that, um, uh, just 2 or 3 models before the current model. I think it was Apple. I'm talking about the Apple phone. I think was now it's actually versions 13 or 14, right? I think it was actually 2 or 3. I think it was version 2 at the time they decided to actually take away the 3.5 mm the what is that called now? Is that the called the jack or something? So they removed that, and they actually force you to actually use the so-called the iPod. Was it that you using the iPod for the rest of the devices we are talking about the USB-C port to actually connect our wires earphone. But I think at that time, Apple's already actually want to phase out the people using the wires sort of earphone. Yeah, because it is actually really quite a nuisance, when you actually want to answer a call in the when you're actually outdoor and so on, then you have to actually pick up the earphone and then plug in the the earphone to the hole and so on, all kind of nonsense. And then after that, you actually have to, with the cable and so on, is not so user friendly and so on. So nowadays, with the Bluetooth earphone, now you can actually just wear it, and then anytime you can use it for actually conversation, or you watch your movie and so on. Yeah, without anybody can actually see that what you are doing, because the Bluetooth earphone is actually very discreet. Also, it's very small, and also very light. So, and then one of the great improvement is, they come with a case, and the case actually also using as a charging station. So that is really perfect, because when you actually carry your earphone inside the casing, and it say actually is continuously being charged. So when you need it that time, it is fully charged already. So it's actually in this particular area, I really appreciate the so-called the wireless charging station. you know Before they actually use it for the earphone, actually I was actually telling, we are wasting a lot of energy to charge our mobile phone when it is at home. If we plug with the cable, it can actually save a lot of energy, rather than using the stupid wireless charging station. And then you create a lot of magnetic wave in the regions, and the efficiency is to first using electric pulses to to create the magnetic force, and then use from there to convert it back into a current to actually to charge your mobile phone. It's very inefficient and energy wasting. And then beside, it also take a long time. You don't sit there and then you wait for the handphone to be charged. So you can see that, as far as my understanding, nowadays many of the mobile phone still come without the wireless charging feature. I do not know whether the Apple's phones still continue with the wireless charging. But maybe they actually using it because they want to remove all the hole. That means they also don't want you to actually have the so-called the iPods to actually to do the charging cable and so on. Yeah, that why it's actually they have a separate consideration. Mainly, if you want to make your device waterproof, or at least is water resistant, then you cannot have any hole on your device. You better seal it completely. Yeah, including the so-called the home button. You use a touch screen, and then the whole device is completely sealed off from moisture. Yeah, so it's again depend on your situation. Yeah, if you are an outdoor person and you need a device that actually is weatherproof, so they can continue doing your photographing and so on, then you need that kind of device. And then without all the cable connection, I think it become very useful. Yeah, so very much again, I think the trend probably will be going in that way. Yeah, because as far as the the connecting hole for the earphone is concerned, I think very soon it will be completely phased out. Yeah, with the improvement and the cost reductions on the Bluetooth earphone. I don't think anybody would like to actually carry the wired earphone anymore. Yeah, certainly I'm using the Bluetooth mouse also. So I don't have the so-called the cable to actually and then the connection that you plug in and then pull it out and so on, and then eventually the USB port also spoil, and then create some problem also. Okay, so we can actually see the many things that actually involves the thing. Okay, so just now we already have seen a lot of different application. So now you actually can actually see when you to in conjunction with the application that come to the how do you design on your device. Now, when you want to design a device, first of all, it must be actually able to make the user able to use it in a convenient way. So in all the wearables devices, the weight, the size, and the battery life are very important factor. Definitely, nobody is going to buy a Tyco type mobile phone nowadays. No matter how useful it is, you can actually receive from satellites connection and so on. Nobody will want to actually bring such a mobile phone. Yeah. So that is a consideration. Yeah. And for that reason, when we talk about smart jewelry and so on, I think one of the jewelry actually we wear it on our hands is actually the watch. So the watch is actually a very difficult device to actually to please everybody. You can actually design a watch that is with a big screen so that you can read and you can see what you want to see. But on the other hand, not everybody have a big arm. So when you have a big watch face with a tiny hand, forearm, like for the lady, it is impossible for them to actually use the watch. Yeah. So that is actually the problem. Yeah. And you cannot use it to listen to something also from the watch because it's too far from your ear. So in other words, when you use the watch, the watch have to link up with your mobile phone in your pocket. At the same time, the watch probably can link to your earphone. So when your uh, hello, hello.
Huh? Oh, yeah. What you want to?
Okay.
You change
Yes.
screen or not? Your screen seems did not change for the whole talk.
Oh, the reason is actually they are all linked up together on this page. You see.
But you
Yeah.
didn't open up the image. We can't see anything.
Which image?
All the files are you are looking at the same screen for the
Yeah.
whole.
No, because I'm actually going through the point what.
But I didn't see anything on the screen. It's the same screen throughout the whole talk. You didn't open the file. Your mouse didn't move. Nothing moved on the screen.
No, I'm moving it.
No, I'm not moving.
Oh, wow.
No wonder we
For
hear
the
you talk, but we don't see the screen share.
But how come you don't know making noise?
I thought I can see the screen share, but I don't see the screen at all. The screen,
Wow.
I thought you
Wow.
thought without changing screen. Wow, you then fantastic. Your own screen can move, but our screen stuck there at the same
The same
PNG
page.
file, the same PNG file, the same
The same portion.
the Explorer there, the Explorer page. Your folder name, your folder files, nothing else.
Oh,
So we message you,
aiyo.
put the check. Also, you didn't read the check.
Wow. There
Also,
is a beauty.
so you actually have screen. Oh,
Yes.
we didn't see anything on the screen.
I open up the file, but
You
I
thought you
open out the.
no, you didn't. Maybe you share again.
Oh,
We only see the Explorer. I thought you forgot to click the file and then you keep on talking. Or
because
you
I go through it. I think I give up with this Zoom. I better go to Pisan.
yeah, yeah lah. Next time you come lah.
How come? Well, you people must make noise.
Nobody. We thought you are talking lah. Suddenly, talk, and then the screen don't move. We also don't know whether you are changing screen or not.
Yeah, I'm actually scrolling the screen up and down.
So, but our screen is not moving.
Yeah. Is
So
it? Okay. Wow.
you have to share again lah.
Wow.
Never mind. We just listen lah. No need to see the picture. I didn't know there's a screen.
There's a screen. Because actually, you see, because last time I actually accessed the web page. I accessed the web page, you see. But then when I